and welcome to the 2015 Candidates Forum for Ward 2 and Ward 3. My name is Suzanne Morelli-Lieber, the President and CEO of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. This event is brought to you by WMCT-TV and the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. Tonight's forum is aired live on cable and Verizon Fios and will be rerun until the elections on November 3rd. Please check WMCTTV.com for times. We have come together to present this forum for your information. I hope the questions posed will encourage everyone to make an informed vote on November 3rd. This evening, we have two candidates.
Their mic's not on.
Sorry. This evening, we have two candidates for the office of Ward 2 City Councilors. Candidate David Dowsett and candidate Paul Farrow. And two candidates for the office of Ward 3 City Council. They are incumbent City Councilor Matthew Elder and candidate Christian Dumas. But before we begin, I would like to just have everyone join me in thinking about Bob Page, who was City Councilor, Ward 2 candidate, and has recently passed away. Let's all pray for his family so that they can feel some comfort. Thank you. Our official timekeeper for this evening is Karen Callahan, owner of Adventures Online. Ground rules of this forum is each candidate will open with an opening statement of 1 minute, according to the number that they chose earlier, followed by questions from the moderator in rotation. Each candidate will have 1 minute response time, and then the candidates will have at least an opportunity to ask his opponent one or two questions, time permitting, with a 30-second rebuttal. The forum will conclude with each candidate giving a 2-minute closing, also according to their number chosen earlier. I would also like to thank the audience in advance for practicing courteous behavior to all involved and for turning off their cell phones. Okay, opening statements that were drawn earlier. The first opening statement is Mr. Dumas.
Thank you. First off, I would like to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, WMCT-TV, the school committee for allowing us to use this room, and also the constituents that are here tonight. My name is Christian Dumas, and I'm running for Ward 3 City Councilor. I'm a small business owner here of Drumet Hair Salon. I'm on the board of directors for the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm also on the steering committee for the Rising Young Professionals, the Downtown Village, as well as I was the 2014 Entrepreneur of the Year. So my experience here, I believe, will make me a great candidate for Ward 3. I'm obviously dedicated to small businesses here in Marlborough, but I'm also a product of the Marlborough public school systems. I'm the class of 1998. I was actually the first class of 8th grade to go into the high school. Obviously, things have changed since then, and I think that needs to be addressed here with the school system in Marlborough. There's not a lot of support for the small businesses, and I would like to change that. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next one is Mr. Elder.
Thank you. My name is Matt Elder, and I've had the honor of being the Ward 3 City Councilor for the past 6 years. Now I hope to continue leading the City of Marlborough in the right direction and continue the progress we've made over the past several years. I'm a father of 3, a husband, and I own 2 businesses in the city, a youth sports league, and a video game trailer laser tag company. Marlborough is in a great place financially. We are bringing incredible businesses and keeping a stable tax rate. I have the long-standing record to show my opposition to massive tax increases. I was the chair of the Urban Affairs Committee that oversaw a revolutionary zoning change on Forest Street that will bring in thousands of jobs and millions of tax dollars into the city. Now, on the Finance Committee, I ask the tough questions to department heads and mayor to make sure the city spends its money wisely. Saying Marlborough and Ward 3 want and need a change is kind of a cliche. The fact that the residents of Ward 3 recently overwhelmingly voted for my colleagues in the preliminary show that. I hope to have your vote on November 3rd to continue what I started 6 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next one is Mr. Dowsett.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank Susan Morale-Lieber, the Marlborough Chamber of Commerce, and Marlborough Cable Access for hosting these debates. My name is Dave Doucette. I'm running for the Ward 2 City Council seat, and this is the first time I'm running for public office. I started working in Marlborough in 1987, and I've lived here since 1991 with my wife Debbie and my 19-year-old daughter Sarah. I have over 30 years of high technology experience as an engineer and business manager, and I feel this type of industry experience is beneficial for City Council. I started my high-tech career as a Northeastern co-op at Prime Computer and was the CPU architect 7 years later. I also worked at Digital Equipment Corporation for 10 years, including 5 years at the Marlborough facility on Forest Street. I have an engineering degree, an MBA, and I've self-published various multimedia works. I'm active in my church, both in lay leadership roles and even paid office staff. I'm also involved in 350 Mass, which is a global organization fighting climate change. I believe that municipal employees of all types should be paid fair wage for their work, because lower salaries don't attract good talent. That's what's expected in corporate America, and I'm amazed this approach isn't part of the city budget discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Mr. Farrow.
Thank you very much. I want to thank WMCT-TV, Channel 10, and the Marlborough Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this. I appreciate having the opportunity to share my vision for Ward 2 and my record of experience and accomplishments when I had the honor of serving as your city councilor for 8 years, and I hope to talk about my plans for the future. Our form of government expects city councilors to have a wide range of knowledge to get things done. The work of a councilor is not a two-night-a-month endeavor, but it's 24/7. And I'm proud of my record of being there for constituents all the time when they needed me. I frequently would get calls after 11 o'clock at night, and often when I was out of state, it could still help them effectively. I'll be able to hit the ground running from the moment I'm sworn in to get things done from the ward, whether it's addressing speeding on Church Street, Framingham Road, or Farm Road, and to address streets in our ward that need repair. During my 8 years on the council, I served on every council committee, and I want to show tonight that experience in city government counts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that concludes the first part. On the second part, we will be asking questions. I would like to start with our last opening question person, Mr. Farrow. The first question is, many more dogs in the neighborhood there are many more dogs in the neighborhoods. Is there a consideration for a dog park somewhere in your ward?
Well, first of all, as a longtime dog owner who has owned a dog for my entire life, in fact, the last 3 years is the first time in my entire life that we haven't had a dog in the house, and I'm hoping to rectify that shortly. I definitely think there's a place in the city. I'm trying to think of a place off the top of my head in the ward that would serve that role effectively. We have many beautiful public parks. I think we could adopt at least one of them to being a dog park. I think Farrell Field at the Hildreth School would be a location that we could modify to enclose more tightly and use as a dog park. And I think it would be a great addition to the city of Marlborough.
Thank you very much. Mr. Elder, could you address the same question?
I'm trying to think about a place within the ward. I'm not sure. I know the beautifully redone Ward Park will not be a good place to do that. It is a good place to maybe walk your dogs around a little bit around the beautiful track that we just put in. But I'm not sure where in the ward we would do. There's a couple smaller parks like around John Street that could work. But to be honest, I'm not 100% sure if there's any place within the ward that could work for that. So I'm not sure. I don't think there is a place that we could safely and conveniently put a park.
Okay. Mr.
Dog park.
Dumais.
Well, being deathly allergic to dogs, I will never have this issue. But there is actually a need because obviously going door-to-door campaigning, I've never been attacked or tried to be mauled to death with licks from dogs across the constituents. But there is a need, and I'm sure that if there is a need for it in the city of Marlborough, I'm sure we can find a place in Ward 3 for that. The dog parks are a sense of community. There's nothing better than the city of Marlborough to provide that community and going door to door in Marlborough and Ward 3, it's a huge ward, and I definitely think that there is a place for it, and also, as well as a need. I just won't be going there, but yeah, there is a need, and thank you.
Mr. Dissett.
Yes, actually, technically, Callahan State Park entrance in Ward 2 does allow dogs, and some dog owners have been known to let them off the leash, including myself. It's actually a very nice area. It's basically conservation land, all trees and stuff. It's off of Broad Meadow. My dog is hyperallergenic, so you don't have to worry about that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But I think as far as an actual dog park is something that if we were going to do it, it'd have to be someplace that is reasonably accessible, and with a lot of discussion going on about, the borough path and walkways and stuff, integrating a dog park into those types of plans would be basically how to approach it. As far as where it would be in the city, I would leave that up to the city planners to get into figuring out exactly where it would be. But as far as Ward 2 goes, take them to Callahan.
Thank you. Is there a rebuttal?
Just the fact that we don't own Callahan State Park, it's a state conservation land, so it would have to be, we were going to look at a location for a city park, we'd have to look someplace that the city has either owns or can purchase or can use a currently using field, which is why I recommended Hildreth, the Farrell Field Hildreth, because there's already parking available there, and it already has fencing on 3 sides. You just have to fence in the part by the parking lot.
Thank you very much. The second question goes to Mr. Dowsett. Do you feel that it is important as an elected official to be a visible, supportive member of the community?
Yes, I do. I think that that's an important part of being the member, and also talking to people in the community, listening to them, understanding what they feel are the important issues in the ward, and making sure that they know who you are and where they can find you.
Thank you. Mr. Dumais?
Absolutely. I think even as a business owner, you need to be visible in the community. It sparks conversation, and I'm extremely proud to have the salon be a part of Heritage Day. I'm volunteering for Oktoberfest just for that visibility, because if you don't have that visibility, it means that you don't support the community. And the community is really important here. I remember growing up in Marlborough and going down to the old Ward Park and watching the fireworks and the Labor Day parade and all that. That's a sense of pride, and I cherish those memories, and those memories should still be available to the next generation. So if you're not supportive, you're not visible, then you're not supporting the community.
Thank you. Mr.
I
Elder?
think obviously that is something very important that all elected officials, have when you run for this office. You kind of lose a sense of privacy. Sometimes I want to leave the house in just t-shirt and shorts, and I say, oh, I may see somebody, so we can't do that. Actually did that this morning. And because both my businesses are catered around families, I see a lot of the moms and dads that I work with every single day, whether it's at Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, gas stations, and people stop and see me and, hey Matt, how's it going? What's up with this? And when you have a business that's involved with a lot of families and you're a city councilor, sometimes those two lives can kind of bleed together, where I'm at a flag football field and someone, not a constituent, but someone at my league says, hey, can we do this? And vice versa. So you definitely do have a sense of being involved in the community, and that's kind of expected as a city councilor, and I think I've done that over the past 6 years.
And Mr. Farrow?
I have to agree with the prior 3 speakers. In particular, when I was a city councilor in the past, I made a point to have sponsor both neighborhood meetings and ward-wide meetings to have the constituents able to come ask questions about things that were going on in the ward, whether it was a helicopter school at the airport or a rash of break-ins that we had down in the manufactured home parks, or just having a ward meeting in general to let people come and ask questions of their elected official and get their feedback. And I paid for that out of my own pocket, and was happy to do it so that I could keep residents in the ward informed of what was going on.
Thank you very much. Is there a rebuttal?
No, I think there was
Agreed,
basic
so.
consensus.
I think we all agreed, so.
Yeah.
I'd ask.
Thank you.
Okay. The next question goes to Matt Elder. The city has promoted big business and more residential building, but why no new fire station? Isn't it a safety concern for you?
It absolutely is, especially being a city councilor on the west side of the city. There is a huge process to get something like that built. It's something that we've brought up several times. One of the issues that we have getting that done is some of the rapid changeover we've had at the top of the fire department, which makes it a little bit tough to really get the ball rolling on some of these projects. I know myself and the former city council president put an order on the agenda a couple months ago, or maybe about a year ago, to really begin those conversations about having a new fire station. The west side of the city is pretty much the only place you can develop in this city, especially the Ward 3 area. And as we bring all these apartments and businesses, I know you referenced businesses, but it's the apartments too that are coming. We have about 650 apartment units coming to the west side of the city over the next couple of years, and that brings a lot more calls for police and fire. We definitely want to do it. It's something I'd absolutely support, and it's something that I really hope to get accomplished with maybe some state funding over the next couple of years. But with the changeover in the fire chiefs, it has been a little bit hard to really continue the ball rolling with that.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
Me? Okay. Actually, when I was first elected to the council, and ran for council, I advocated for this issue for many of the reasons that Councilor Elder mentioned just a moment ago. Our issue was when I came in for a councilor, we were in very much of a budget crunch, and before I was even sworn in, we had $4 million of cash reserves disappear into the ether and into the VAT, as they said at the time, which was the city's computer system, which we did not have access to for almost half a decade after that. So one of the reasons I've always been a bit of a budget hawk is I'm trying to cut down spending, not just to keep people's taxes down, but so that in the future we will have the financial resources to invest in things like a new Western Fire Station or a library or a new school so that we can be able to have things like a new senior center and afford things like improvements to Ward Park.
Thank you. Mr. Doucette.
I actually have worked in that part of West Marlborough, so I think that it's important that we have sufficient safety and fire in that area. I'm glad to hear Councilman Elder has already been working on that, and I think that it would be very much supporting going forward on something like that.
Okay. Mr. Dumais.
I would also agree with the three former opinions. Ward 3, especially in Matt Elder's neighborhood, it's a small little community, but it's a tight-knit community, and the response time to get there is, especially if you have another response time on the other side of Marlborough. Marlborough's growing increasingly fast, and the response time across of Marlborough, it's getting longer and longer. So if you have two fires in two different locations of Marlborough, the response time is going to be extremely different. So these neighborhoods need to be protected, as well as with the hotels and a large apartment complex that's going on in Lake Williams. This has to be done. It should be a priority. It should have been a priority 3 years ago when Matt Elder first brought it up. So, and it hasn't happened yet. But yet all these other big businesses can move in, and getting tax incentives to move in, as well as with funding for low-income housing, that has been paid to the Marlborough, so that does not need it. That money can go to this local fire station that's needed in Ward 3.
Thank you. Where you all agree, is there any rebuttal? Any other
Well,
words?
just to clarify, if there ever are two fires there, we have a great group of fire departments across the state, especially locally. So when, for example, there was a huge fire on Main Street a couple years ago, we had 6 or 7 different communities come. So when there are issues like that, whether it's Northborough, Southborough, Hudson, it's sort of all hands on deck type of thing where, you know, if we have 2 fires within the city, another station comes to help out to make sure that everybody is protected. So it's not an ideal situation, and we definitely do need the fire department on the west side of the city.
And I would agree with that, but at the same time, that we need to protect our own. And that having a fire station down there, your insurance will go down, so your insurance premium will be going down too. And that's more tax dollars actually, or more dollars in your constituents' pocket, so then they can actually support local businesses by actually having that extra income. So across the board, it's a win-win for everyone.
Thank you. Alrighty. This is mainly for Ward 3, but Ward 2 people, please weigh in. Part of Ward 3 is downtown Main Street. What is your vision for Main Street?
Is this to me, Susan?
Yes.
Okay. About right after I was elected, before I was even sworn in, I met with the owner of Fish, who's had some pretty good plans to build his apartment complexes on top of that restaurant. We met after I was elected, before I was sworn in, because it was a huge priority to him. And we got the ball rolling with some issues, like he needed to do some major zoning changes. And what we've done over the past couple of years, we've had tons of public hearings, tons of public meetings to really try to fix the zoning in downtown Marlborough, which was the big hurdle. He couldn't just build those apartments. He had to really go through some zoning changes. And the city council with MEDC and MAPC and the chamber all working together, we came up with some great, a great zoning change to start to allow some of that use as of right. So it's something that we really want to see in terms of mixed-use development. That's kind of a new trend, where you have some retail down below, maybe some 2 or 3 floors up top with some apartments. It's what I talked to with him 6 years ago, and I really hope he moves forward with that project, because I thought it was great 6 years ago, and I still think it's great now.
Thank you, Mr. Dumais.
That is a great idea, but it's still in a conceptual phase. There hasn't been anything or moving forward as far as construction that's going on. Marlborough's building, as we've talked about this, and a lot of big businesses are coming in, which means that the housing market's great. But now what do we do with these residents that are here? The Marlborough downtown, Marlborough spent a lot of money making it a beautiful city. If you stand on the steps of the city hall and you look down Main Street, it's beautiful. I fall in love with the city every time I go down there. But there's nothing to do on Main Street. It needs to be revitalized. There needs to be more restaurants. The surrounding towns are doing an incredible job by supporting local businesses and investing in them. Marlborough's not. They're too caught up in the big business and giving tax incentives for them. We need to start local. America's built on small businesses, and Marlborough's just not doing that. I commend the MEDC for all their work, but let's put a little more support into small businesses and revitalizing downtown.
Thank you. Mr. Doucette.
I think that putting additional apartments in downtown Marlborough would actually be beneficial. I think the idea of mixed use is actually something that I've seen throughout many cities within Massachusetts. But I think the issue, especially when you start putting housing within, in that area, you have parking issues that are completely different than the current parking issues that you have today. And what I don't want to see is the municipal parking being burdened with private parking as part of this, because I consider that to be giving benefit to the owners and not the community.
Thank you. Mr. Farrow.
Actually, I agree with what Mr. Gisette just said. I did want to actually say something quickly in response to Mr. Dumas. Is my first meeting I ever had with the Marlborough Economic Development Corporation in their offices was about how to improve downtown and what my ideas were for improving downtown. And at that time, I said, I think you need to make downtown a draw for folks by highlighting what's working down there, which is service businesses, restaurants, hair salons, bankers, lawyers, CPAs, and make that a commerce corridor for folks. You hear a lot of talk about bringing the big corporations on the west side of the city, et cetera, except for, of course, Raytheon, which is on the east side. But the reason you always hear councilors, and you heard me speaking about this when I was on the council, is because those people bring employees who then come and patronize our businesses and use the local attorney, use the local CPA, go to get their hair cut locally instead of on their lunch break. So it's a two-phase. Each side supports the other. The large businesses help support the small businesses and vice versa.
Thank you very much. Is there a rebuttal reply?
And I don't disagree with you. I own a hair salon. I'm very much aware of how many hair salons and barbershops are on Main Street. However, you can only get your hair cut so many times, so many weeks. That's it. And that's all that the Main Street has to offer. There are a few great restaurants. I frequent them often. But again, those service type areas, I welcome the competition. However, you can only get your hair cut so many times. So if we support other establishments that come into Marlborough Main Street, it'll be a better community for everyone involved.
Also, I'd like to say, there's only so much the government can do. You know, we can't make an entrepreneur come in here and put a rail trail or something like that in the city of Marlborough. It takes somebody willing to take the risk and go for it. So there's only so much that we as city councilors can do to spur economic growth. What we did was we redid the zoning to allow it. So like I said, I met with that developer or the business owner a couple years ago. We did what we had to do, and now, other than hurdles that he may have, the city's okay with doing it. You know, he has some hurdles he has to cross, but there's only so much that the government can do to spur economic growth like that.
I would disagree with that because the MEDC, I think, does a fantastic job about bringing big business in. It's the same idea for small business. Marlborough doesn't have a setup for a support system for someone who wants to be an entrepreneur or take classes here. There's the Ask a Bit After Dark program, which is great. But however, there's no community base to actually support the local establishments that are here. I'm part of the board of directors for the chamber for a reason, because I support small businesses. Entrepreneurs are out there. People want to make a difference here, but people don't know where to go, and that's the difference.
Thank you. The next question goes to Mr. Farrow. There are 3 high schools in Marlborough, which together make our community attractive to new families. What will you do to assist these schools to function as a single unit, maximizing their effectiveness?
You know, Susan, I'm not sure if that's the way to think about it, because the way I view it, I think they're complementary to each other. I think there is a great need in this nation for vocational education. I think there's this, for some reason, there was some stigma for a long time about getting a vocational education. As someone who comes from 4 generations of carpenters, people need people to build their houses and do construction, and that put myself and my sisters through college. I think that's a viable thing. I think the charter school complements it by having a focus on math and sciences, which with a growing life sciences businesses in Marlborough, that it helps feed new people into that system. And of course, as a graduate of the Marlborough Public Schools from kindergarten through Marlborough High, I think it provides a great traditional educational opportunity to do a broad base. So I don't think of it as unified. I think they're complementary of each other. They each bring something to the table that people who want to live in Marlborough will be looking for, and we have one of each to start to meet that need.
Thank you. Mr. Elder.
I think that it works well to have the 3 different entities kind of working on their own. Not everybody goes and is suited for a public school. Not everybody's suited for a voc school. Not everybody's suited for a charter school. So I think it works very well for the individuals to have those 3 options. I think having different options is good because it forces everybody, all the 3 entities, to kind of raise the bar a little bit. If the public schools are losing some kids to a charter school, they're going to look at it and see why and hopefully fix it. If a voc school is losing some kids to the public schools, they can take a look at it and see why that is. When I was in high school, I went to the high school in the town I grew up in, and I had a lot of friends in the local voc school. And a lot of those friends graduated from high school, went and got a very high-paying job. Right out of there, I went to college and probably made a lot less than they did when they started their workplace. So I think all 3 entities work very well, and I think they work pretty well on their own, and that's what we need to do.
Thank you. Mr. Dumais.
I think all 3 are actually needed in this city. Again, being a product of Marlborough High, I actually was discovered that I had a learning disability at the end of my junior year in high school. I slipped through the cracks the whole way through. So what I like about AMSA is that they are raising the bar for Marlborough High. So they need to do better at what they do. There's a huge diversity problem in all the Marlborough public school systems. The elementary school systems are all on performance plan. That sets the foundation for Whitcomb and then Marlborough High. So if they're taking, it's a lottery system for AMSA, which I understand, but you still have to make the grades in order to continue at AMSA. If you go through the Marlborough public school systems, you don't have that foundation, then the AMSA population is taking the top of the top, which means that there's a class division as well as there's a diversity issue in Marlborough High that needs to be addressed because the class sizes are too big. There's a whole diversity issues that's not being addressed as far as separating out the classrooms to ESL students to English students, and that prohibits everyone in the long run.
Thank you. Mr. Dowsett.
Yes, my daughter actually attended Assabet Vocational School. I actually spent 2 years in a vocational school and 2 years at public school for high school. I think that having the 3 is actually, they provide very good choices, excellent choices for anyone within Marlborough. And their different approaches and how they want to take the next step of education in their lives. I do think that the charter school seems to be too selective as far as how they allow students to come in and basically if they don't make it, they go back to the high school, and I think that's not necessarily inappropriate. But that's just the way the structure is set up, so. But, okay.
Thank you. Is there a rebuttal comment? No? Good. Okay.
I would just
Nick?
actually wanted to point out in response to Doucette that one of the benefits of having the charter school and the Advanced Math and Science Academy is that it caused the Marlborough Public Schools, in terms of the STEM program, to have a science and technology and engineering and mathematics program curriculum added to its normal curriculum for students who wanted to pursue that, who might not want to go to a charter school and did not want to be in that environment. But so I think having the three schools, for lack of a better term, competing against each other for students is helping, because it's helping them tell the students why they would want to go to Assabet Valley
Thank
versus
you.
Marlborough High versus Amsba.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Doucette, the next question is yours. How do you feel your current or past job experience will assist you in your role as a city councilor if elected?
My experience has been in high technology and corporate businesses. I've worked for startups. I've worked for Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies. I come from a background where trying to understand what the situation is, talking to people, listening to people to understand what the issues are, and then effectively going back and you get yourself into situations where you have 5 people telling you 5 different stories about the same situation, and you're trying to condense that into what actually is going on. And that type of experience, I think, is pretty common within municipal election, municipal system as well. So I think that that's pretty beneficial. Just basic business experience with an MBA. I've gone through financial reports and all that, so I'm very comfortable working with numbers as well as with technology and just working with people. Thank you.
Mr. Dumais?
I think owning Dream a Hair Salon, it has been extremely challenging. I had no hair experience whatsoever, and I had this huge responsibility to make this business a success. You just learn to pull up your boots and just jump in the mud. And granted, I may not have any political experience, but I think the foundation has been set with the business that I own, being part of the Chamber of Commerce, being part of the Rising Professional Entrepreneur of the Year. These qualifications are extremely important to me. I love Marlborough. I'm dedicated. I'm passionate. I'm passionate about my business. I want it to succeed, but I also want Marlborough to succeed as well. I don't think you'll find someone who's more passionate and dedicated to the city of Marlborough, and that reflects with the clients that I see on a day-to-day basis. It reflects with my team. They love working with me. They love coming into work. They enjoy the experience, and that's what I want Marlborough to see and realize. So the credentials with my business, I think, will make me a great candidate for the city of Marlborough.
Thank you very much. Mr. Elder?
Ever since I was about 17, I started to work at the local kindercare, and I've worked with families and children my whole life from there. And I think that gives me a unique perspective as a ward counselor. I walk around my fields today and I see families and I talk to them. Some of them are constituents now, some of them are not. But it gives me a unique vision as to what they have, because they tell me what's going on in their lives, because now we've developed kind of a friendship. So we hear what's going on in families' lives across the city, whether they're constituents or not. Like I said, some of them are. But working with those families has really given me a good understanding as to what they do. So it's not just door knocking, a couple thousand doors every year or so. It's talking to the families every single day, whether they're at the schools or my fields, see them at the grocery store. So just seeing them gives me a good understanding as to what they really need so I can represent them. Also budgeting, I'm very ridiculous is the way that I budget the household income and everything, and that's also how I look at it at the city level, and it's what I've done my entire adult life, and that's what I've done in 6 years on the council, and I really hope to continue to do that.
Thank you.
In my case, I started my post-college working life working for my father's construction business and helping him operate that for the remainder of the years that he was in business before I took a plunge of my own, started my own direct marketing business, which was a leap of faith to say the least. And learning all of the regulations and whatnot that you have to go through to have a business in the state of Massachusetts can be a great eye-opener. But I'm reminded that serving in government is not the same as running a business. We all wish it were more like a business, that there was more accountability, but that's simply not the fact of the matter. Is that it's left up to the ward councilors and the at-large councilors and the mayor to make the government accountable. And with 8 years' experience, having served on virtually every council committee, I have a wide breadth of knowledge about how the city government of the city of Marlborough, which I'm running to represent, operates, and I think that is a skill set that is more apt to what we're looking to have in the next few years.
Thank you very much. And the last question is a two-part question, so it counts as two questions.
We have 2
points.
points for answering it?
2 points.
All
yeah. Okay. Mr. Dumais, what do you see as a major issue in your ward, and what do you see as a major issue for the city?
Well, I think we talked about this a little bit before, but I think obviously safety is a huge concern, especially with the Ward 3 Precinct 2 area and the fire safety. We're building completely too quickly in that area, and we need more safety in regards to science, to the fire department. But also Richard School. The elementary school is probably the lowest performing school in the city of Marlborough. The elementary school system needs to start a foundation for the children to move on to Wickham, and that's just not there. They're all on performance plans. That needs to be addressed. There needs to be more. The school budget was actually cut, which means that now there's no librarians in the actual elementary school. That is the foundation to set the tone that reading is not important, neither is learning in the elementary school systems, and that needs to be changed. The city council actually cut that budget and needs, in a direct result, lost those aides, and that's just extremely important for me and the city of Marlborough to move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Dowsett.
Yeah, for Ward 2, I think, at least in the eastern part of Ward 2, I think one of the biggest issues we have right now, was demonstrated for the last 2 winters, is the lack of plowing of sidewalks during the winter, specifically between Farm Road and Descenso Boulevard. That's basically a primary route of Route 20. And I have been shocked and surprised by the number of people who are literally taking their lives at stake trying to walk on the side of a 2-lane highway, trying to get either to or from the stores or whatever on Route 20. I think that's something that is an issue that I'm hoping to address if I get into office. As far as Marlborough goes, I think as far as the municipality goes, I think diversification of the economic base is important, and maintaining, attracting not only the larger companies, because they tend to play one municipality over another, but I think it's important to actually nurture startups and incubators.
Thank you very much. Mr. Farrow?
Thank you. The 2 issues I would look at first in Ward 2 would be quality of life issues, in which I include both blight issues and speeding. First on the blight, when I was city council, we passed a comprehensive blight ordinance to address issues of hoarders or other blight issues. And as I've traveled around the wards talking to folks, people have pointed out the various issues that have sprung up over the last several years. And I would work with the code enforcement officer who was created as part of that blight ordinance to address those issues as soon as I'm sworn in. Second is speeding. We're doing this very massive reconstruction process, many years in the waiting on Farm Road, and Farm Road is already a speedway. Church Street, Framingham Road, all have speeding issues on them, and as a ward councilor, I think that's something that is foremost should be on our agendas, and I'm going to work with the chief of the police and the Marlborough Police Department to make sure we crack down on speeding on those roads and punish the folks who are turning scenic residential streets into freeways.
Thank you. And Mr. Elder?
I just want to correct Mr. Dumas real quick. The school budget wasn't cut this year. I've always supported major increases in the school budget, so it was not cut. Actually, a councilor this year made a motion to cut the size of the increase on the council floor this year, to which I immediately spoke out against. So every year the school budget does go up, and it's never been cut since I was on the council. In terms of the issues in the ward, the 40B development that was passed side-skirting the council because the council wasn't going to support it, that's a huge issue, as is just the apartments, half of which I didn't support because I wasn't on the council at the time. So I think those are the major issues that are in the ward that everybody's concerned with. And unfortunately, one went through the ZBA and we couldn't do anything about it, and the other was approved before I was a councilor. And those are huge issues in the wards, and my residents are concerned with.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move
Can I
on.
rebuttal?
You can do a rebuttal.
Thank you.
real quick.
I was actually at that meeting, Mr. Elder, and you did, I stand corrected, but I believe you also said that you wanted to send a message to the school council or school committee to not increase that budget, and that direct result, because it's too top-heavy, which I agree with you, but in the result of that, we lost incredible important aids that are now needed for the elementary school systems because of that increase with the school budget.
Just to clarify, we have no say on what the schools do with their money. The schools make
And
that
I completely agree
decision.
with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Actually,
We would like to move on.
I had just a quick
Okay, we're not going to move on.
rebuttal, but Mr. Doucette mentioned Route 20. That's plowed and taken care of by Mass Highway, and
The sidewalks are not.
I will give you all the credit in the world if you can get Mass Highway to do anything in a timely fashion. They
it's an
are
issue
a
of-
frustrating state department to work with and get anything fixed in a timely fashion. But I know when I was a councilor, we were effective in getting them to be part of plowing the sidewalks along Route 20, and I hope to be able to do that again.
Thank you.
It's not, the issue is the sidewalks, not necessarily the street. And I understand the state DPW is responsible for the streets. The issue over the last 2 years with the outrageous snows that's been going on is that by the time they actually get to plow the sidewalks, it's basically a huge cake of ice and you can't get through it. This is an issue that is going to take, it has to collaborate with multiple organizations to get it done. It's not something that's just going to be the responsibility of the city council, but there has to be someone willing to drive it.
Thank you.
And I agree with him on the farm road speeding too.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
no, I'm sorry, but I wasn't the city councilor for the last 2 years, and if I was the city councilor, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Let's go on to the next discussion. This is an opportunity for each of you to ask a question of your opponent, and then there will be an opportunity to rebut that answer. So, I
Just to
would,
clarify, are we doing one question or two, just so I can plan accordingly?
well, I think we can do two.
Thank you.
All right. One question with one rebuttal. You ask the question, you answer, you rebut. Okay?
Thank you.
All righty. So, the last question went to Mr. Doucette. So the first question will go to Mr. Farrow.
Of course. All right. I have so many that I have here, but let me see which one I'm going to use. Mr. Doucette, I have here your voter file. This is a record of all the elections you voted in since you registered to vote here in the city of Marlborough. You registered to vote at the last update of June 1st, 1995. In that 20-year period, 2 weeks ago was the first time you've ever voted in a municipal election. You didn't vote in 1995, you didn't vote in 97, 99, 2001, 2003, 2005, 2007, 2009, or 2011, or even 2013. You've missed a total of 12 municipal elections, including two primaries like we had last week. Why should the voters of Ward 2 give you their vote when, as of today, you have never given your vote to anyone running for Ward 2 City Councilor?
That's interesting because I remember voting at least in the 2013 election, but I haven't necessarily looked at my records on that, so I'd have to verify that. In any case, I think the issue is that basically at the time, when you're working in corporate America and you're putting in 40, 50 hours a week and you're commuting an excessive amount of time, I actually didn't have much time for local politics at that point because I was one of those people who actually live in Marlborough and commuted very far distances to work. So I think that now that I've had a chance, corporate high tech has left here. I've gotten to learn more about the city and municipality, and I'm starting to focus my attention on the city itself and adding to its value. I think everyone that votes should, and I have been voting at the other elections. It's just that I felt that I didn't have enough experience to actually know how to vote, so I felt it was important to vote in the issues I thought were important and not vote if I didn't have the experience and knowledge to make a good decision.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Doucette could take the time in his busy schedule to vote in a primary in the in the spring of 2013. He vote in a special state election in the summer of 2013, but 3 months later he couldn't vote in a municipal elections. He could vote in December of 2009 for a state primary, but he couldn't vote a month earlier in a municipal election. I'm not saying Mr. Doucette is not a good voter. In fact, he's a very good voter. He votes frequently. He just has never voted in a
Thank
municipal
you.
election, and I think
Thank
that's
you.
because he has a lack of interest in the things facing the city. He has a
Thank you.
national perspective, not a local one.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Doucette, would you
Yes.
like to ask Mr. Farrow a question?
Yes, I would. Mr. Farrow, you've held the seat of City Council for 4 terms. This is now the 7th time you're running for the same office, and you've lost in the last 2 elections, including 2013 against the late Bob Page, who you ran against in the first 2 terms. What are you proposing for your campaign today that is different than what you were when you were in office?
Well, you know, as you're probably aware, Mrs. Sett, times change and things change. There were, of course, many issues I wanted to address that I never got a chance to because of the election results, which I fully accept. I think the issue of speeding is one that's going to get worse with the reconstruction of Farm Road, and that's someone you're going to have to need an experienced counselor to have. I think there's not enough questions asked of the mayoral administration. I served under 2 different mayors, and I treated both of them the same in terms of asking tough questions of what their proposals were. And while I have known Mayor Vigent for a long time, on a personal level, I'm still going to put his proposals to hard questioning on the council floor because it's the council's job to be a check, and I want to act like that. And I'm also happy to say that even though I don't have a great relationship with him, I received a wonderful message from Ski Bigelow yesterday, who said,
Thank
Paul,
you.
we need your expertise back. In order to balance things and keep the taxpayers in the forefront, you're the one. David Doucette is a good man, but he does not have the skills or experience you have. We need balance, and you've always provided that. And that was of Mr.
Okay.
Bigelow. So I'm going to be capable of working with whoever wins the mayoral election.
Thank you. Do you have a rebuttal?
I think that the issues that Mr. Farrow was bringing up while he was in City Council demonstrate to people who actually know of his background. And it doesn't sound like it's going to be that much different compared to what he's looking for now. And as far as Ski, I'm going to have to reference that because I've been talking to him too, so I'd be interested to see how he responds to that. But I've also known to talk to Mr. Vigent as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Elder,
Mr. Dumas, part of what I've always done in the city council is really watch city spending and tax dollars to making sure our residents pay as little taxes as possible. Can you please list 4 specific things you would do to reduce real estate tax bills for the homeowners in our ward?
Well, I think that the TIFs actually need to be moderated so that way that the support from the big businesses can actually compensate the taxes that the residents actually pay in that regards. But I also feel that once I'm part of the city council, I can actually take a look and see what the big budgets in the budget actually needs to be cut. I think that we're spending a lot of money on parks are great for the community, but is that needed right now? Probably not. I know that the parks actually directly affect your business, which is probably why a lot of them are actually being built and actually remodeled. So I would just want to take a look at the budget and see where I can cut. As a business owner, I feel that you can cut spending pretty much anywhere. And with my experience with cutting my own personal salon budget, I feel that I can transcend into that. So once I'm involved with the city council or the school council, hopefully I can actually make those decisions.
thank you. Mr. Elder?
I'll reference what you. So the TIPs bring a lot of good companies into the city. If we didn't have such a excessive TIF program, we could lose out on thousands of jobs, millions of dollars in tax revenue. So businesses come to the city because of the TIFs that we offer. In terms of the parks, I did this business before as a city councilor. I rented out the parks before as a city councilor. Nothing's changed since then. I've recused myself every chance that I've had that the solicitors told me to, and I've certainly seen no preferential treatment in any way, shape, or form regarding the parks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dumais, would you like to ask a question?
Mr. Elder, you've been on the city council now for 3 terms. What have you personally done to make Marlborough a better place for the constituents that you have? You talk in even your literature, you always reference city council as a whole, you reference MEDC, but what have you personally done to make a difference for Marlborough?
I think the most obvious one is Ward Park and the senior center. You know, when the senior center was proposed being built, the discussions were, you know, oh, well, Ward Park could maybe happen now in 5-7 years. You know, maybe we'll get to it at some point. And now it's done. It's all but complete. City councilors, Ward 3 city councilors for 15 years have been talking about redoing Ward Park. And because of my work with the mayor, we ended up doing that. So now I think you referenced how beautiful the park is. You know, that was because of my work with the residents or with the mayor. I can't read my handwriting. It's also some of the stuff that doesn't happen. You know, there was a development that was proposed behind Desimone Drive, and dozens of residents came out opposed to that. And I came out and said that I'm going to support my residents to make sure it wouldn't go in, the special permit wouldn't pass, and that died in committee because they knew it wouldn't go through. So sometimes it's stuff that doesn't happen because of your work that the residents really appreciate the most.
May I rebuttal? Ward Park needed to be remodeled long before the senior center actually came on board. I feel like the Ward Park was just a caveat because the senior center was actually established. I know that a lot of constituents in that area were not happy with the senior center being relocated or moved there. They actually reached out to you, they had numerous concerns. Again, this is them speaking, not me, saying that you weren't responsive, you weren't taking calls, you weren't. So that doesn't sit well, I think, with anyone. So I feel like you can't take credit for Ward Park when it's because of senior center.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. The next question will be from
I believe it's me, right?
Mr. Farrow,
Uh,
Mr. Dowsett.
Thank you. Mr. Doucette, fiscal responsibility has always been an important issue for the voters of Ward 2. Can you name a line item in the city budget that you would reduce or eliminate, and why?
I don't think there's anything that I would eliminate at this point because I don't know the full details of the fiscal budget. I think that it really takes a thorough analysis to figure out if you're going to phase out something. On the other hand, I think that there's opportunities to actually reduce our fossil fuel consumption by implementing conservation programs, not assuming that they're going to get done. But as you said, just making sure that the projects are put in place, solar panels are put in place, that type of investment actually has a significant reduction in fossil fuel emissions for the community. It actually cleans the air in the community and also saves the municipality incredible amounts of money. Natick implemented this and was able to reduce their energy usage by 20% over 5 years. And I'd love to see Marlborough take that type of aggressive stance to reduce emissions
Thank you.
or
Do you have
reduce
a rebuttal?
costs.
So the answer was no item then? There's
No
nothing.
specific item, but what I would
Okay.
do is invest to actually reduce energy consumption.
We're running short on time.
Okay, so
So I
that's-
would ask you to
Yeah.
please be aware of the time that you're
Yeah,
taking.
I'm watching. So essentially, his answer, what you reduce is he'd spend more. Just to give you folks an idea, the city of Marlborough, in all of its line items, electricity, gasoline, oil, and natural gas, spent $2,528,000 on energy last year. That's less than 1 3/4% of the total city budget. Over my 8 years in the city council, including 7 on the finance committee, I was a budget hawk who found savings in the city budget so that we could afford things in the future, like a new senior center, or have the ability to invest in things like
Thank
a
you.
future fire
Thank
station.
you. Thank you. Mr. Dowsett.
Thank you. Paul, in positions of leadership, sometimes decisions don't work out as expected. So, of the decisions you were involved with while in the city council, which one had the greatest unintended consequence, and what did you learn from that?
The greatest unintended consequence?
Unintended consequence.
Well,
Unexpected result. However you want to
okay.
phrase it.
Unexpected. I was using the unexpected result.
Either unintended consequences, unexpected result.
I will say I've always told people I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong. I think the one I've always probably the wrongest one was I was a great doubter on MEDC when it was first created. I did not like the fashion that the council used to fund it, and I was dubious about having an agency outside of the direct control of the mayor and the city council making a lot of economic decisions for the city. So I was a great skeptic of the idea of the MEDC coming to existence, much less spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on it. But I'm willing to admit that I was wrong on that. I think MEDC has been a positive for the city in terms of bringing businesses to the city. We earlier, I don't know if the people on TV will see it this way, but we earlier heard the mayor talking about the 5,000 jobs that have come to Marlborough in the last 4 years. A large chunk of that is due to the work of MEDC. And I've been sending compliments to them, reading the Boston Globe, and seeing ads for starting your
Thank
business
you.
in Marlborough paid
Thank
for
you.
by MEDC.
Thank you. Do you have a comment?
I think I agree that MEDC has done a great job in actually getting some businesses in here. And I'm glad to know that he actually admits when he does mistakes. So it's good for him.
Thank you.
I'll keep the time tight.
Okay, Mr. Elder, your final question.
Mr. Dumas, on the platform section of your website, you list two of your priorities as bringing affordable housing to our ward, increasing the number of celebration, recognizing the different cultures in our city. You make no mention of important issues such as controlling tax increases and keeping the city spending in check. I haven't heard many constituents voice some of these concerns that you bring up. In fact, the Glenbrook area has been fighting a development of an apartment complex in the neighborhood for over 10 years. How can you be an effective representative for the ward when your platform is in direct opposition to the priorities of the residents of our ward?
That's just one small area of the ward. Marlborough is extremely diverse. I don't think Marlborough actually accepts or acknowledges that there is a diversity issue here, especially if you go down Main Street, there is a diversity issue, and it's not embraced. Even in the public school systems, there's a divide between English-speaking students and non-English-speaking students. Affordable housing is a direct relationship to that diversity, and it needs to be addressed. There's a concern there. It's out there, especially in the Precinct 1 where I live, where Main Street is there. Ward 3, Precinct 1, if you actually go down Howe Street or Washington Street, there's a huge diverse population there that could probably utilize and benefit from affordable housing, and it's just not present in Marlborough. My parents own rooming houses. They're always full. There is a need for this in the city of Marlborough, and Marlborough just focuses on what can make it better, and it's a key issue.
Thank you. Do you have a comment?
Marlborough actually has tons of affordable houses in the city. There was a study a couple years ago that showed surrounding communities who had a third of the percentage of houses that we have. We're going to be above the 10% threshold, which not many communities can say that they have. I'm also concerned with making Marlborough affordable, and that's why I've always really focused on tax dollars. I have some residents in my ward that pay $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year in taxes. So when we're talking about affordable housing, we need to make sure that it really is affordable for everyone, even those paying $8,000 a year in taxes.
Thank you. And your final question?
Mr. Elder, you had mentioned that you have children in, obviously, so do you feel comfortable sending them to the Marlborough public school systems, knowing that the elementary school and the class sizes are too large and not as diverse as what needs to be?
Absolutely. I have three children. I have a 11-month-old, a 2-year-old who picked up my beautiful tie today, and a 6-year-old who is in first grade at Richer School. I feel very comfortable sending him there. Richer's going to change over the next couple of years. The mayor alluded to, we're going to either add on to Richer School or put a new school in there. So I feel 100% comfortable sending him to the schools. I hope he continues to go to the public schools, and when he gets to high school, if he has whichever choice out of the 3 great high schools he has, I'll certainly support him. I think we do have good schools in the city, and I'm very happy with my son Luke's kindergarten, first grade, and I'm sure he'll do great up through it. So I feel very confident in the schools, and that's why I always support the major increases to the school budget every year to make sure that the schools have enough money every year.
But you denied them the increase this year.
Okay.
We cut the size of their increase. Actually, we didn't cut the size of their increase this year at all. Councilor Roby proposed us cutting $250,000 from their increase, and I believe, the first councilor that stood up and said we're absolutely not cutting their budget. So every year